Have you ever lost your temper at work and immediately regretted it? I consider myself a shy, introverted, and relatively calm person, but there are several times in my career when I regretted that I was out of my, usual calm self and reacted with emotions. And many times those emotions were anger, frustration, and could be even, being sad. And I remember a time early in my career journey when a heated conversation left me spiraling. Not because I didn't know what I was doing, but because I wasn't managing how I felt while doing it. And I've seen that in many cases with my clients, especially women in tech. And you are brilliant, capable, strategic, but when emotions run high, you fear of being judged as too much, or even worse, emotional, too emotional. Have you heard that before? I heard it way too much. And in this episode of From a Woman to a Leader, I sit down with Cecile Peterkin. She is a seasoned leadership coach and a former senior manager who learned emotional mastery from the most unexpected place, her father. We talked about why emotional management is a game changer in leadership. And by the way, not just for women, for men as well. The myth of needing to know everything to lead effectively, how to coach your team and yourself through tough moments, and the powerful story of how Cecile helped a struggling employee in a way that changed her life. This episode is for every woman and man who have ever felt they have to choose between being strong or being emotional, and you don't have to choose. So for those who don't know me, hi everyone, my name is Limor Bergman Gross. I'm a former director of engineering, I'm an executive coach and a founder of this podcast. From a woman to a leader, when we uncover what it really takes to rise in tech leadership without burning out or changing who you are. So are you ready to lead and learn how to manage your emotions? Why don't we dive right in? Hi, Cecile, welcome.
Hey, Laura, it's a pleasure being here. I've been looking forward to this.
Likewise, I've been looking forward to our conversation, and we'll see what we're going to talk about. But in our pre-call, we kind of talked about emotional management, and before we dive into that, I wanted you to share with the audience the story you mentioned about your father, because I thought it was very inspiring.
Great.
So can you share kind of how your father was a role model for you for emotional management?
Yes, he was. He had two girls, my older sister who have passed away. But what I liked about him, and the older I get, is the more I realize how powerful he was and what he did for us as women as well. And one of the things was he taught us just about everything. Everything that you can think of, he didn't miss a beat at all. And he was very much in touch with his feminine energy. And he was sort of like an only child because his older brother was, I think, 18 years older than he was.
Wow.
So so by the time he arrived, his older brother was ready to leave, and then he died. So he became sort of like an only child. And my grandmother, she was a I can't even know how to describe her. She was a small little woman. I don't think she was at least 5 feet tall, but what a solid, intelligent woman for those days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was. So she raised him,
Mm-hmm.
and they had an excellent relationship. They talked about everything because he was always a talker, because my grandmother said he was always a talker. So he
Yeah.
always talked, and everything he saw, he understood what it was, but he always made it his own and put life skills into it.
Mm-hmm.
And based on her raising him, where she listened to everything that he had to say and encouraged him in everything. And he did the same thing to us, where he would talk about everything. He talked about what it means to really be a woman And women don't realize the power that they have and don't realize that they are the stronger sex, not the men. And we're giving away our power to the men. And he goes, it's not a he, she, or whatever. It's realizing your place in society as well and work together
Mm-hmm.
because you both need each other. But women, first thing first, he says that women are the ones that actually look after the home, have the kids. They really run the show. And women don't realize that they're running the show. And he says there's a lot of times that's what caused a lot of divorce because they want to be equal. And he's saying, why do you want to be equal with a man when you are a woman? And it's not, he's going, and I'm not being sexist because I have two daughters. That's the last thing I would be sexist. He goes, you have a lot more to give, but women don't realize how much they have to give. So they're always trying to compete with the men instead of just staying in their arena and do what they do best. And he says they do everything best compared to a man. He goes, you guys have the empathy, you've got the intuition. Those are two big things that men don't have that you have to use. You are also the ones that give birth. Without you guys, like we have no children. And then he explained to us about Mother Earth. And he was saying Mother Earth is derived from the fact that the male, way back when, the women were seen as goddesses, because again, they're the provider. They're the ones who bring the food to the table. They are the ones that bring the children. And he said, this is where Mother Earth came from, because in order for the men to eat, the women were the one who were going out to gather the food to bring it back. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the whole thing why Mother Earth. And he said, it's not the woman's fault because what happens, and I believe in that part too, he says, fast forward to, the 20th century is where all the change started happening. And he said it has nothing to women going out into the workforce, but things just shifted where it was a different dynamic. Where women were getting more educated, there were two people working in the home now. So kids were become more neglected than before. And what happened with that is you see that kids became more neglected. And this is where you notice that kids have a lot of behavioral issues. And he just went into all these things. And yes, you are listening, but we didn't, my sister and I, and God rest her soul, didn't realize how much we absorbed that he was telling us. And I have no kids, but my sister had two, my niece and my nephew, and she raised them based on how we were raised, and not because they're my niece and nephew, but wow, they're amazing. Especially my nephew. He lives in another city, in not a province, I should say, and he lives in Montreal now, and he's 35. And he was here at Christmas, and he came for New Year's because my niece, who lives in London, and with her husband, she also came for New Year's. So we all met at my house because they always meet because it's a small family. And when I listen to him speak, I'm like, oh my God. So it's like, wow. And I keep telling him, like, you sound like your grandfather because when my father died, they were still young. They spent a lot of time together, but not enough for him to learn as much as we learned. And he's just highly intelligent and very thoughtful and so in touch with his emotion, both the masculine side and the feminine side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just from my dad. And one phrase my dad always said that leaving a legacy is not just about the money. He said it goes way beyond that. It's making sure your child is educated. It's making sure your child is well adjusted in the world. It involves everything. It's not because everyone always thinks that, I need to earn X amount of dollars. I need to own a house, everything so my kids can have these things. But he said, no, it goes beyond. There are your family values that you need to teach them. You need to teach them about what it means to be the matriarch and the patriarch of a family. The two people have to work together. So these are the type of training that he did. So we were very in tune with our femininity and the power it brings, but not the power that for you to walk around saying I am powerful is to stand in your own power. And what you can do, you can do. You continue to do it, but don't try to segue into someone else's. And the reason why he said that, he said, is because women are trying to compete with men, and you shouldn't compete. And nobody should be competing because we all have, or what we were placed here to do. We all have our purpose. We all have our purpose and we all have our own levels of intelligence. So there's no need to compete. The idea is to work against each other. With each other, not against each other. Because he always said it would make the world a better place. And yeah.
I believe that you shouldn't try to compete, not just gender related, but in general, rather than kind of identify your strength and what you bring and let that shine instead of trying to compare yourself to other people and try to compete with them, because there is enough for everyone. I believe in
Yes,
abundance. So there's enough for everyone and you don't need to compete. So it's not just related to gender, men versus women,
not at
in
all,
my
not at
opinion.
all. No,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's true because it doesn't make sense because we all bring our gifts and what we're good at in
Yeah.
every situation. So, and we can't be good at all things. It's just totally impossible. There's just too many things out there, so we can't be. So it's like staying in your lane, and while you're staying in your lane, you're also learning and growing. Because as the phrase says, when they first developed team things, it's like together each achieve more. So when you're working together, you achieve a lot more than when you're working solo. You can't. It's totally impossible. Your brain isn't large enough to absorb all that stuff that you can keep it there and relate it to other people. So it's the idea. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, Cecile, based on what you kind of mentioned, that you cannot know everything, very much relate to that. And I think one of the challenges for women that go into leadership, so from moving from someone who is actually executing and doing the work to someone who is leading, they have a feeling that they have to know everything, right? To stay very, very hands on and know more than everyone else, but still be a leader. And that's obviously not possible at all. You
No.
cannot do it all, you cannot know everything.
No. No, you can't. You cannot. And it's funny you should say that because it's so true. And I feel that why a lot of women, but I don't know why they continue because things have changed. Because years ago, women stayed home. And what I have found is that a lot of I don't like picking on people, but a lot of the younger generation, because baby boomers are the ones that started going to the workforce when all the men started coming back from the war. And when they were in the workforce, they were the ones that they thought knowledge was power. So, because I've encountered them where you first start in your job and they really won't help you when you ask them a question because knowledge was power. But I can understand that, why they would use knowledge was power because they were accustomed to being at home, looking after the kids and everything else. Now, fast forward to where just about every woman now is educated. They have some form of formal education, degree, PhD, everything. But they're still not comfortable in their own skin. So they still see that they need to compete. And what I find is watching a lot of the leaders that I trained and work with, it's the moment they put that leadership hat on, they think that they need to know everything. And it's totally impossible. Nobody can know anything. This is why you have employees that have certain skills that you don't have. To be a leader, they don't realize that being a leader, and I'm going to share a story. And um, my niece has her LBB, she has her undergrad in political science, and she has a master's in administration. And she had got her law degree in the UK. She met her future husband, so they lived there. And she had a breakdown in the summer. And part of her breakdown was she she's got 3 degrees, she's smart, she is intelligent, and she goes, I don't think um my manager even has one. And I said to her, she doesn't need one to be a leader. That's not what it's about. What it's about to being a leader is knowing how to work with people to make sure they're getting the work done. That's why they hired him. They're leading you guys, not knowing how the work is. You are hired to do the work. And you see, and that is the thing with a lot of, I would say, women. They struggle more in the leadership role because they think they need to know from A to Z of the alphabet. And yes, that's for the alphabet, but that's not life. And how can you, if you're not being a leader, how can you actually train someone who is good at the job, but also have leadership skills to step into your role so you can move from to up higher? You can't. If You can't do that. You have to make sure the people that know what you're doing, you're there as a leader to guide them. You don't need to know their work, is to guide them so that they know that there's a position and they have leadership skills. Because every time and whenever I speak to women's group, I always say you should it at work, you should make sure there's a woman behind you that can step into your position. And if you're not at work, you should start mentoring a woman. Therefore, they can also move up as they get older and have the experience of moving up. Because that's what it's all about. It's for you to groom. And if you're leading men and women, it's to also groom the younger men. It's the same thing. And but for some
Hmm.
reason, I don't know why, leadership gives power.
I tell you something. I mean, I think that when at least that's what I've seen in my career. When people maybe don't have enough belief in themselves, enough confidence, I think it's also related to what you mentioned, Cecile, about like sharing knowledge. So maybe they feel uncomfortable grooming the next generation or letting someone know what they know, helping someone step up. Because then what does it say about them? So if I am teaching someone to do part of what I do today, then maybe I will not be needed anymore. Instead of thinking like, how can I grow myself to the next level and what can I do to make more impact? If I don't have the confidence, I may say, well, I want to protect kind of my territory and I don't want to let anyone know all the secrets,
True.
right, of what I'm
That is
doing.
so true. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
That is so true. That's exactly what it is. And, and to your point, I love what you just said because it's so true. And to me, by being that way, you have lacked confidence in yourself. You really have. And you don't believe enough in yourself and you don't believe in your abilities. But
yeah,
that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's that imposter syndrome.
yeah,
Yeah. I have all the knowledge. I got to hold it. I can't let it go because what will happen to me if I let it go?
yeah.
Nothing.
And
Because you have,
I would
yeah,
say, if you feel that those feelings, first of all, that's natural. I mean, you don't need to be ashamed. I would say, think about how can you develop yourself and grow. Because if we don't grow, we go backwards. So,
exactly, exactly. Someone will come in and take your job, and you still will come in and take your job. Because the thing about it is, you know, higher management are looking for people with growth potential. And if you are leading the same set of people for the past 10 years, you have not grown.
yeah,
You have no new ideas for the company because you're doing the same thing. But yes, and it's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. But yeah, you were right. That's exactly what it is. It's fear based.
yeah. And fears are part of us, and that's natural. We are always afraid of something. I think that we cannot stop being afraid. We cannot get away from
No,
fear. But my advice is to just put it front and centered, right? Those are the fears I have. And what do I choose to do with them? And if you choose to face them and do things that you're afraid of, that's how you grow.
exactly. Exactly. You have to embrace it. No, everyone is afraid of something, or if it's something new that you don't really understand, of course, you're
Mm-hmm.
hesitant in approaching it. But, you just sit down, calm yourself down and says, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you're able to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to help women move forward. And you mentioned to me in our
Yes,
pre-call that one of the challenges that you see with the women leader is emotional management. So can you share
yes.
first what is it? What is it emotional management? What does it mean to you?
It's managing your own emotions. And actually, I was taught by my dad with emotional management because he always managed his. It was always. I've never seen him lose his cool
Mm-hmm.
because he said it's not necessary. And what he's saying is and again, he alluded to women because he said, if you notice, a lot of times you're shopping and a child is misbehaving in the store. and the mom is yelling at the child, and the child is getting worse at misbehaving, and the mom still keep yelling and expect the child is going to change.
I'm laughing
And it's
because
true.
I imagine myself as a younger self when my kids were smaller and screaming in the mall and like staying put, not willing to come with me. Yeah, remember those days?
Upset. The more upset you get, the kid is actually enjoying it, and it's true because you see them running around, right?
I don't know,
And
by the
you,
way, I don't know if they enjoy it or they just see that it's working, it's effective. They see that it is effective to scream
right,
and, whatever
right.
they are
You're
doing.
getting it. That's true. Yeah, that's true. And he said, manage your emotion because when you start screaming at them like that, it is your emotion that's coming out. If
Yeah.
you just, just say, come here for a minute, let's just talk. And because he was good at the talking, if we did anything, he never raised his voice. Never. He would take the person that did whatever they did in his office and he would wait for the house to be empty. So my sister would know why I got in trouble. And she wouldn't, and neither would my stepbrother. We would know. We would have to tell them why we got in trouble. And it was easy to tell them because it wasn't big trouble. And he gets into his office, he sits behind his desk, and there's a chair right there. And he would say, Cecile, the other day I saw you do something. I can't even remember because he didn't talk to me about it on that day. I said, what did I do? And he said, there you go. You can't even remember. And I said, no. And he would tell me, and I would say, I did that. He said, yes. And then he would say, and that's what I was wondering because you are a smart girl. And I couldn't figure out why you did such a thing. I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you give us little lectures. You have to be mindful of everything that you're doing because you don't know how it's going to affect the other person. You're not doing to that person, but there's somebody that you're going to affect out there. So always be mindful. And I never forget it. He says, and that comes with emotional management. It's knowing what you're saying, knowing your surroundings and the people around you, and always think about other people, not just about yourself. I'm having fun, so I'm just going to do it. I don't care. And he goes, you can't do that. And I always remember it. He always says, think about other people. You don't need to know them, but you must think about other people. And that's how I knew about emotional management. And I've watched people in the corporate world, and I hate to say it, it's mostly women, it's not men, because men don't really lose their cool that in that way at all, where they get so upset and their voice quiver. And because by doing that as well, your staff that report to you is not going to respect you because you sound weak when your voice is quivering. And it's the same thing with your kids. They hear the weakness in your voice, and therefore they start doing what they were doing before. They don't hear someone who is in control of their voice and what you're talking about. All they can hear is that angry nervousness in the person's voice. And I noticed that with a lot of managers. And
Mm.
they're the ones that constantly in conflict with not all of their staff members, but some, like the stronger opinionated ones, they were always in conflict with them because you have to choose how you speak to someone and you have to choose when and where you speak to them. If you manage a team and you want to speak to one person, you do not hang over their cubicle and you speak to them. You take them into an office and you talk to them. And it's always best to start with a positive. Then you go to whatever the issue was. Because the moment you start with a positive, they realize that, oh, geez, my manager respect me and see the work that I'm doing. So when you mention the negative, they don't get upset and it doesn't become an argument
Yeah.
and you get a lot more respect.
Yeah. And I think that when you mentioned the emotional, side, that how you that think about how you talk, and if you talk with anger or whatever, I mean, I think that one strategy that I like to use is to try to think what triggers that. Because usually when you are acting out of emotions, it's because something triggered you. And what you need to do is to first identify what are those triggers that cause you to be, angry or whatever, that be frustrated. and then maybe practice, you know, kind of something to calm you down or to help you regulate your emotions when those triggers happen. So if you know, for example, you talk with a person that always triggers you, and I've worked with people like it, that every time I went to a conversation with them, I knew, oh my God, I know that I'm going to be upset because like they were very different, and I felt like it's very hard working with them. So if you know that's going to be triggering you, at least you come with awareness and then said, okay, when this is going to happen, what am I going to do? Sometimes, sometimes I
Exactly.
found that
Yeah.
it's better not to react and just say, okay, let me think about it, and then calm down, kind of, think about it. What do you want to do next? And not just react on the spot, because that reaction is not going to be very helpful.
No, that is true. That is so true. That is true. Because and part of it, I think, too, is that person you're about to talk to, they know that they have done something while you want to speak to them at this time. And so their back is up against the wall already. So they come in on the attack.
Mm-hmm.
They're not coming in to say we're going to have this nice conversation. So they come in on the attack. So, and this is why you have to think about what you're about to say. Make sure you're in the right frame of mind. As you said, that's exactly what it is. Okay, so, the train was late, you slept late, everything just went, your morning was off. Do not have a conversation with someone that you know they're going to trigger you. It just doesn't make sense
For sure.
because
Yeah.
you're already triggered, right? You arrive late at the office and here's this person, and you decide to just ream that person out. That person is going to answer back. So, and you as a leader should know better. And that's what it is, because when you're a leader, the people you're leading is looking to you for examples. So if you show that you're going to react that way, what are you telling them? I am weak. I don't know how to manage my emotions. And that's exactly what it is. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
then they start making fun of you as being a woman, and there's some whatever is going on, and they sit with your friends and talk about you. And
Yeah, I think that
yeah,
there's a lot of bias against women in that sense. Like if you act in a certain way, let's say you get mad or angry and you're a woman, then it was, oh, she's so emotional. But when a man would react like that, well, yeah, he will get upset or whatever, but no one say, oh, he's so
he's so
emotional.
emotional.
So women, I think that we have a bias against us. So we need to be
That's true.
smarter and not fall into that trap. And I wanted to ask you, Cecile, if you have any kind of strategies that you work maybe in your life or with your clients that you think can help women, because it's not easy, right? I mean, when someone
No,
gets
it's
on our
not.
nerves, it's not easy to stay calm. So, do you have any strategies you think can be helpful?
What I did when I was in corporate, and I first started out leading teams, and then based on my leadership style, I started leading the managers who were managing the teams. And what I did was get to know the person personally.
Mm-hmm.
So once you get to know the person personally, you do get to know their triggers. You do get to know what's important to them. Because with my teams, when I was managing teams, every new person that came in, I would sit them down, tell them how I work, ask them what are they looking for in a manager. I would also ask them about their career goals. This is what they're doing right now. Where do would they like to be in the next 6 months or in a year? So get to know them on a personal level, and they can also get to know me on a personal level. This is how I work. Um, I have an open door policy. If you have an issue, I want you to come to me. I don't want you to going out and talking to someone else or gossiping about people. Come to me and talk about it. And I will make sure the situation is resolved. So that's how I worked, because the thing about it is we're all people, and they're not my children, and I wouldn't speak to my children like that if I had kids, because I wasn't spoke to like that when I was a kid. So I'm not going to yell at you or demoralize you in front of your team members.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason they would know that we had a discussion is unless you told them. But I would never, ever come to you and says, come here, let's go into this office. I'd never do that. I would let you know that we're going to meet tomorrow morning and there's nothing to worry about. We're just going to have a conversation, and that's it. See, and that's what it is. And it is also part of parenting because kids know when their parents are upset with them because of the tone of voice they use, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's once you smooth it out, and that's the thing about it too, even in parenting, if you yell at a child, the child is going to yell back at you. And what do you expect? They're mirroring what you did because you just hurt their feelings by yelling.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with your staff. And sometimes I remember looking at some managers, I'm thinking, you're married with kids at home. How do you manage your kids? It's, I'm just saying it to myself, not to the person. Because some of these people have kids the same age at home as who they're managing. And I'm wondering, how do you do it? Because speaking to someone like that, no, that's not right. But they get frustrated. I guess they get frustrated with their kids and they see maybe they see the young people like their kids as well. I don't know. But no, it's just knowing how you would like someone to speak to you. I don't like being yelled at.
Yeah.
I was never yelled at. The moment someone yelled at me now, even at my age, I'm upset because I wasn't raised with being yelled at. It was always about communication. And we have a conversation about it, it's overdone, and it's put away, never
Yeah.
to be repeated. Yeah, and that is the thing. It's like we really do have to remember when people come to work, they become kids again. Because if they have kids at home and a family and everything, work is like a relief. And it's not that they're not doing their job, but it's where they get a chance to socialize, where they get a chance to meet other people. They have lunch together, do things together. And that's what you have to realize. They are people just like you are. So therefore, respect them and also respect their boundaries. And I
Absolutely.
just feel doing that, you gain a lot more respect. A lot more respect.
Yeah.
I'll share a story with you. There was this lovely young man, and from a very wealthy family, because he got the job at the company because his dad was a big wig in one of the financial company. Lovely, very manageable, fun, and everything. But when he goes out to drink with the other younger people at work, he always drink too much. Always, always. And he lived with his dad because his parents were divorced and they had this big mega mansion. And but just nice. You would know he came from wealth. And he was out drinking one night, and I'm in early in the office in the mornings. Normally I'm in early. And he came in and I could smell alcohol. And he wasn't the same because he was always very polite. Oh my God, he was always polite. And I said to him, you're hungover. You're still drunk. Not even hungover. I said, you're still drunk. I said, you cannot work today. You cannot work today. I'll get you a taxi chit and you're going home to get cleaned up. And he goes, "Y- really? I said, yes. And don't worry about it. This is between you and I. I won't mention it. So if it get out in the office, that means you are mentioning it. And he goes, oh no, because I appreciate this so much. And he went home, cleaned up, came in the next day, and he never showed up to work drunk again. Never.
Wow. That's an incredible
Yeah.
story. I think, I mean, it all distills to eventually building relationships and building trust and treating people with respect. And this is
Yes.
wonderful, Cecile. Before we end, I mean, how can our listeners find you?
My website,
Mm-hmm.
leadershipcoachingcenter.com, LinkedIn. And because I've been coaching now for over 22 years, but
Wow.
prior to what I'm doing now, I worked with middle managers and mid-career professionals. And the reason why I'm catering more to women now is because I've learned so much more about women in their jobs. And I figured they need some help.
Absolutely.
So
Uh,
they can still find me in all the social medias, but it won't be Leadership Coaching Center because I'm just in the process of transferring over.
Perfect. So I'll put all your links, and I want to thank you so much, Cecile, for speaking with me today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
So did I. So did I. It was lovely. Yes, thank you as well.
Thank you so much for listening for the episode with Cecile. And before you go, hanging me for a few more minutes, I want to let you know what's coming up next week on From a Woman to a Leader. And next week, I'm speaking with Lisa Cow, and she's a brilliant data engineer, and she moved from engineering to product management. Actually, she hasn't planned it, but it kind of someone saw her potential before she even did, and she made a leap. And her story actually made me reflect on my own, because I believed for many years that was only one path for me. And there's only one way to grow in my career. So I was an engineer, and then a manager, and then a director of engineering. And I wish, earlier in my career, I saw that actually I can do more than just one path. And I want to encourage you to do the same and consider, what growth means to you and what paths you can walk on. So her story, is very inspirational. She's an incredible woman and an incredible leader. And I think you'll find a lot of inspiration in her honesty, in her mindset, in her courage to explore the unknown. And if you ever wondered, what if I took a different path, definitely I want to encourage you to listen to this episode. So before you go, I want to ask you a favor. If you like From a Woman to a Leader, you like this episode, please share it with a friend or with someone you feel like that can be helpful for. Don't forget to follow From a Woman to a Leader. Subscribe to my newsletter, limorbergman.com/newsletter, so you never miss another episode. And I want to thank you so much for being here today and wish you a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.